in one area, main area, is our pride. God's going to definitely get the video, the potter's house. Definitely going to go to the potter's house. God's going to squeeze their pride out of it. So we all have that. By faith, Abraham, when he was tired, offered up Isaac, of whom it was said that in Isaac shall thy seed be called, accounting that God was able to raise him up even from the dead, even whence also he received him in a figure. That figure was Christ, like I stated. And Abraham had the faith that God would raise his son up from dead, even if he killed him. That's why you to pray that you, as I've said that in several videos, that you enter not into temptation. You should pray that prayer every day. God could tempt you too. Not just Satan himself. God allows sometimes the hedge to be lifted. So, this is in the case with Job. But God's going to be with you even in your trials, your temptations. I would say there's no temptation that takes us there where he doesn't have a way of the escape. But it's faith. God's trying our faith to see if it's going to be as gold. That's why I say you're not going to, Christianity, the way it's taught in the Bible, is definitely, it's not what's represented into today's world. I tell people all the time, come to Christ, all hell's going to break loose. All hell's coming after you. I've said it in several videos. I don't preach no Rufus Glitter Teeth, Candy Cane, Honey Dripping Christianity. Playground for Jesus. I don't teach that. I teach you, this ministry here, Street Priest Ministries, is about training soldiers for spiritual combat, to fight against an unseen enemy called Satan, the devil, the adversary, whose main goal is to keep you from getting to eternity and receiving your inheritance through the faith that you're practicing, to break your faith and your connection with God. That's his main objective. And ours is to fight him daily, day to day, and stay plugged into faith and press in to God. Pressure, I forgot who said it. It's a famous quote, pressure, I believe it was Henry Drummond, I'm not certain. So pressure will either drive you to God or from God. I'll read the parable of the seed sower. A lot of people were called. I believe all you sitting down here are called. Ain't a single person listening to me, and I'm looking in this camera talking to, is not called. What you do with the call, and you have free will. Read the parable of the seed sower in the New Testament. Or get to teaching the video on the parable of the seed sower. I tell them, many are called, few are chosen. A lot of you ain't going to make it. You're going to break that faith. And the tempter is going to lead you away, lead you astray. Press into God. All hell's coming after you. I don't preach that Christianity, and it's going to be a feather bed, a hammock, a rocking chair, and you once saved, always saved. You just lullaby yourself in eternity. No. You're going to be lullabied and wake up in hell. That's where you're going to be lullabied to. Faith is action. And you're to fight. It's warfare. It's what the Ephesians 6 is teaching. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, spiritual wickedness in high places. Excuse me. As I've stated, our prisoners, as long as he's passive in prison, nobody bothers him. Let him go over that wall. Everybody's coming after him. Marshals, U.S. Marshals, the FBI. You're going to be on the news. Local police departments. Dogs. Everything's coming after him. Picture plastered everywhere. Well, it's no different than when you turn to God. All hell's coming after. You're going to lose friends. You're going to lose some family. I don't preach a Christianity where it's hunky-dory. Satan's coming after. He's going to attack those around you, the weakest links in the chain. Sometimes you have to separate from them. Sometimes. Christ made it clear. There's no preference. There's no point of where anything can come between you and God at any time. God's absolute in your life. It's going to be absolute. And put flesh and blood on this. Would you offer your child up what God told you to? Say, God, but send an angel. Hey, hey Joe. Hey Robert. Hey Peter. Hey Paul. Hey Bob, kill your son. Would you do it? Put flesh and blood on what Abraham did. So you have a lot of Christians in name that don't understand what real service to God really entails. You do what the boss tell you to do. The boss in heaven, that is. Get to teaching Saul versus David. You understand what true obedience to God's word really is. I taught on that in the video. Saul versus David. Accounting that God was able to raise him up even from the dead, even whence also he received him in a figure. By faith Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau concerning the things to come. By faith Jacob, when he was dying, blessed both the sons of Joseph and worshiped, leaning up on the top of his staff. God crippled Jacob. Remember, he wrestled with the angel all night. Jacob's was strong-willed. God broke him down. And that leaning on the staff is also symbolic of faith. In the Hebrew, you had Hasa and Baka, and the words for faith. One, Hasa meant to lean on a staff. By faith, Joseph, when he died, made mention of the departing of the children of Israel and gave commandments concerning his bones. Joseph was so sure that God was going to keep his commandments and raise up a deliverer. Remember, they went into bondage, and that was Moses. And he said, take my bones with you. When God brings forth the deliverer, which was Moses. Remember, they were in Egypt 400 years. And Joseph told, and he knew that God would keep his words. God would keep his word. By faith, Joseph, when he died, made mention of the departing of the children of Israel and gave commandment concerning his bones. By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hid 3 months of his parents because they saw he was a proper child and they were not afraid of the king's commandments. They could have got them killed. I taught on that. I believe it was 3 mothers in the Bible. It was a Mother's Day message. But Moses' mom was one of them. 3 biblical mothers. I taught on. By faith, Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. Moses would have been Pharaoh. He was the next Pharaoh of Egypt. Now, Ron Wyatt has discovered that, and you can go look it up for yourself. They tried to erase, that's what the Egyptians tried to do, erase the memory of both Joseph and Pharaoh, as though they never existed in Israel, but there's plenty of proof. There's been a lot of archaeology, and thanks to Ron Wyatt, that proved that Moses was to be the next Pharaoh of Egypt. And he was a prominent figure in Egypt. And the problem with the Egyptians, they kept very accurate records. By faith, Moses, when he come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer the afflictions with the people of God than enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. It was pleasure being a Pharaoh. It's good to be king. It's good to be king. Just imagine the pleasure you can have being king. Oh my goodness. Esteeming the reproach of Christ greater. Christ means deliverer. He was a Christ of the Old Testament, not the Christ, the Messiah. He was a Christ. They had several Christs in the Bible. We're little Christ. We're deliverers. What do you think God's training us to be? What do you think we're here to do? What do you think I'm doing sitting here? This is what this ministry, Street Priest Ministry, is about. To introduce you to the Son that setteth you free. This is what this ministry is about. He that the Son sets free is free indeed. Esteeming the reproach of Christ rather than the riches and treasures of Egypt, for he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. Now whose name is greater, Moses or that Pharaoh that drowned in the Red Sea that was chasing? By faith he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is invisible. Through faith he kept the Passover and the sprinkling of blood, lest he that destroyed the firstborn should touch them. Remember God sent a death angel to kill all the firstborn in Egypt. And that would have been the children of Israel if they didn't have the faith to put the blood on the doorposts and the mantle of the house, the lamb's blood. That's where the Passover came from. And they ate the roasted lamb before the journeys. Two things they did, symbolizing Christ as the Passover lamb. By faith they passed through the Red Sea as by dry land, which the Egyptians assaying to do so would drown. That was faith. Imagine those giant walls of water. Cecil B. DeMille did a great job in the movie The Exodus. The Exodus, excuse me. He did a great job in portraying them two walls of water as they passed. That's faith. So I said I would have jogged through there. I mean, I'm kind of a skeptic because in case God changed his mind, I would have been probably the first one on the other side. By faith, the walls of water of Jericho fell down after they were compassed about 7 days. God told Joshua, tell them, because he knew that hard-headed bunch, how they murmured before. So he's, I'm going to bring you into the promised land, but they better not say nothing. In 7 days, not a word. And then on my command, I want them to shout. The commandment I give them to shout. And the walls would have come down after they compassed it. Compassed days went in a circle for 7 days around the walls of Jericho. That's a miracle in itself. Nobody said anything, knowing that bunch. By faith, the harlot Rahab, oh boy, I taught on that. Famous whores in the Bible. Guys, that's a classic. You guys gotta get that video. Famous whores in the Bible. Here's a famous whore right here, a godly whore. By faith, the harlot Rahab perished not with them that believed not, when she received the spies with peace. She let out the the scarlet cord, and her house was spared, her section of the wall. They lived in the wall. They'd say the wall was huge, but it was part of the city. But her household was spared when the walls come tumbling down. And what shall I say more? Or excuse me, and what shall I more say? For the time would fail me to tell of Gideon. I mean, I've taught on Gideon, God's coward. You get that video. And of Barak, and of Samson, and of Jephthah, and of David also, and Samuel, and all of the prophets, who through faith subdued kingdoms, wrought righteousness, obtained promises, stopped the mouths of lions. That was Daniel. Daniel was told to bow down to that wicked Nebuchadnezzar's idol, and he would not. And he was thrown in the lion's den. And the lion's mouth was stayed. Quenched the violence of fire, escaped the edge of the sword out of weakness, were made strong, waxed valiant in fight, turned to flight the armies of the aliens. Women received their dead. That was Elijah in the Old Testament. Raised up the widow's child. Received their dead, raised up to life again, and others were tortured. A lot of people were killed for their testimony. In the Old Testament as well as the New Testament, and well as today. You got Christians dying in the Middle East, getting their heads chopped off right now for the testimony of Christ Jesus. And throughout history, you had the Inquisitions. You had the Romans that was dipping that blamed the church world. I taught on that already too, in the Four Great Prophets. I believe it was the Age of Paul I taught on how they were tortured. And get the book, Fox's Book of Martyrs. Good book to read, Fox's Book of Martyrs. Or the price tag was paid for commitment. The church had paid, the Old Testament prophets and saints paid in the Old Testament. And others had a trial of cruel mocking and scourgings, yea, moreover, of bonds and imprisonment. They were stoned, they were sawn asunder, they were cut asunder, they were tempted, were slain with the sword. They wandered about in sheepskins and goatskins, being destitute, afflicted, tormented, of whom the world was not worthy. They wandered in deserts and in mountains and in dens and in caves of the earth. And these all might have obtained a good report through faith, received not the promise. They died not obtaining the promise. God having provided some better thing for us. These people died before Christ. That's the Old Testament. God having provided some better thing for us, that they without us should not be made perfect. Faith. I hope this message inspired you to have faith. Stay plugged into God's Word, like electricity. Christ is formed in your heart by faith. The Holy Spirit sticks around, I guarantee you. He will transform you and change you over time. He will fulfill what God has said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. You will be God-like. As long as you stay out the way and don't interfere and get out of faith and follow some charlatan, some elixir seller, snake oil salesman, peddling some pharisaical, do-it-yourself, self-righteous doctrine. If you can stay away from that poison, you will be transformed in faith. You will grow in faith. You will become God-like. And not as man deems what God-like then. I mean, Christ took a rope. I wish I could show you the size of the rope. I'm gonna try to get that and show you the actual size of this rope, how thick and heavy this rope was. You got that little idea of some little skinny piece of yarn or twine. No, it was a sailor's rope, and beat the way out of the money changers in the temple. It need to be done today. Got plenty of money changers in the temple, prostituting the faith with Lear jets and everything else and not preaching. Thus saith the Lord, the word of the Lord. The prosperity pimps. You know, you stay plugged into faith. Press into God's word. Without faith, it's impossible to please God. Nothing else pleases God. Not your self-righteous performance and platitude. All that's filthy rags to God. Can't put old wine in new wineskins, and vice versa. So stay plugged in with faith. Now, if this message has moved you, it's a good way to practice faith is through giving. God got more promises in giving than anything. If I've taught you anything, or you've been taught by this ministry for a while, you owe. So show some faith, not rob God and be cursed. Bring your tithes, first fruits. Alabaster into Street Priest Ministries. If this is where you've been taught. Galatians 6 said, if you've been taught spiritual things, share material things with the one to touch. Good day to you, good evening, good night. God bless you. May you grow in faith, but this is a faith-based ministry here in Jesus' name.